Okay, as in go? Sorry, 1 second.
Forktales, a podcast that feeds the food and beverage world.
Oh, awesome. Forktales is brought to you by Vigor, a branding and marketing agency for passion-driven, innovative restaurant, beverage, and hospitality brands. Learn more at vigorbranding.com. If you love what we're serving up, please give Forktales a 5-star review on your podcast service of choice. Think of it as a tip for good service. Hey everyone, this morning I'm joined by my friend Daniel Gonzalez, who is co-owner of Simply Salad, a brand that's up and coming in the LA market and growing. Before we hop into that, Daniel, say hello, give a little bit of backstory.
Hey everybody, how are you? My name is Daniel. I'm one of the owners of Simply Salad. I've been involved in this business for about a year. Prior to that, I spent about a decade in leadership positions with Restaurant Brands International. So Popeyes and the chicken sandwich, Burger King over in Europe, Burger King here in the States. Originally from California, and I'm super pumped to be able to be bringing healthy food to California.
That's awesome. So yeah, some name drops, which are big ones. Some are leading the charge. Actually, both I would say are leading the charge in their own right. And suffice to say, you've had an illustrious career. Like, you didn't just dive into the top. Like, you have worked your way up. You've worn many hats. And going from a macro brand, the size of Burger King, the size of Popeyes, to a smaller brand in Simply Salad, which I believe we're about to be at 8 units, right?
Yeah, we'll finish at about 8 this year. Hopefully 9. Vegas says 8.5. So I don't know if you want to take the over on that, but about 8.
Awesome. So how have you applied your learnings while maintaining that like agility necessary in startup? Because this is still startup. You're still wearing 30 million hats, trying to get things done. But it's a very different world than being, for instance, head of marketing in the EMEA for Burger King.
Yeah, I mean, how have I applied it? I think it's a focus on details, right? I think as you get into a smaller business, a startup, coming from a big corporate, where you're used to having 500 hands in the pot. Now there's 2 hands in the pot and they're yours. And so you have to get into every step, every detail, and it takes much longer. It takes much more time to do properly than what you're probably used to. I mean, I can tell you in my case, from a supply chain standpoint, Burger King and Popeyes both have some of the best supply chain people in the world. And when you source a chicken breast, it's going to be on spec. It's going to have all the right details. Now, I myself am driving around to farms, checking out, chicken and asking the right questions from what I remember. So when you talk about applying learnings, it's applying them, with my own hands. To do that, chicken's one, produce is another, where we visit the farms. And I think it's just applying them at like a very, very micro level, right? You talk about macro experience, but a lot of folks fly around, and I did for a decade at the 40,000 foot level. Now I'm at, still on the runway, and it's every step asking questions, annoying vendors, annoying my teams with all the questions. But then once you get your arms around it, then you launch, you're successful, and you move forward that way. So I think it's from my perspective, my experience is really about, getting into the details and asking questions.
Yeah, I mean, I assume for you, there's been frustrations. You mentioned annoying people, but it is a very different world when you're used to having this lane, and this is the thing that I do. And then you trust your team members above and below that they're going to take care of their lane, and together we win. But when you're back at this level, I mean, all lanes are really your lane. And how do you mitigate what can be almost like whiplash? Like, hey, I'm in my accounting to like right now. Oh no, there's a fire over here. I have to go hop on the line and take orders. And I know a lot of managers probably experience that on the daily, but I think as owner, you're even more, like you said, you have your fingers all over. You have like more than both hands in the pot. How do you manage that? How do you stay sane?
Yeah. I think it's about prioritization. It's a, basic answer, but like, every day, every week, you have your big picture goals of like, what are the three most important things for our business, for our team, for what's going on this week, this month, and, start at the top and, you know, block off time, for those most important things. So if you're, if you need to review, the wireframes for a new app, make time to do that in the morning when you're fresh, when you can give good feedback. If you're working on finalizing your strategic plan or reviewing insights work that your team has done, which is critical to the next phase of your business, make time for it. um, you know 30-40% of your time is going to be swallowed up by just stuff that comes up, no matter what. And so you need to prioritize those things that have to happen. And then even then, you put the kids to bed. I have two little ones. You put the kids to bed, and then, you work until 11 o'clock midnight and you do it again. But those hours aren't as good as the stuff from, 8:30 until, 10:30,
Yeah, you're really running out of runway at that point. I think saving things for later in the evening usually has the best intentions. My advice would be to make sure that those things aren't critically important because
That's right.
there's something like the beginning of the morning that just keeps you absolutely fresh, like a lovely head of lettuce.
That's right. That's right.
Popeyes is another large brand where you've spent some time and
Right.
built some tenure and knowledge. And if I'm not mistaken, during that time, you were part of the famous chicken sandwich era that started. How did that product just come to be? Because I mean, I think outside looking in, even in the agency world that focuses on restaurants, it's still outside looking in. It's easy to see perfection, right? Like there's rose-colored lenses. It's like, wow, they just nailed it. Now you can infer that there was a bit of work behind it, that it didn't just manifest out of nowhere.
Hmm.
But it is sort of enigmatic. I mean, Popeyes out of nowhere just dropped this bomb of a sandwich. And it is a good sandwich. It's an amazing sandwich, which anyone who's listened to this show, I think I waxed on the first time that I had it. I mean,
Right.
I was skeptical, and there was a very under the breath F word, just in delight. I'm like, wow, this really is fantastic.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
what kind of insights can you give there? What research went into it? How did the brand prepare for the launch? Anything?
Yeah. So I think, look, it's a 20 plus year story, actually. I think most folks probably don't know or realize is that Popeyes had had a chicken sandwich, probably 20 times before, and it failed every single time. And it worked this time. What did we do differently? I think first of all, Popeyes has, I would argue, if I can plug, the best culinary team in the business. So Amy and her team, they're still like by far and away the best in the business. And I think they're the reason why the product itself is so good. So I have to start there, Joseph. It's by far and away the number one reason. But I think apart from that, even with that amazing product, a big brand can be very gun shy about launching a product for the 21st time. It's the boy who cried wolf, right? And so I think what we did differently, big picture, was, an insane level of focus on the product quality. So product quality, taste testing, and the impacts of what that had on the restaurant. So we had taste tested many different, hundreds of different versions, but there was the one, which is the final one, that is the one that's in the restaurants today. But that one, and I think most folks know that it has a different batter breading system. And in a franchise business, if you're bringing in a different set of equipment, you need to carve out 36 to 48 inches in back of house in 2,500 restaurants. That's painful and expensive. And so what we had was a killer product, but we knew we had to put in, a bunch of equipment. And it was a discussion with the franchisees about why this time is different. And, simply put, when you taste test versus, the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is Chick-fil-A, and I think everyone knows that, and you're significantly outperforming, you've got a winner. And so just like I'm talking about product here, but I think that insane level of product, plus the fact that we would commit marketing dollars behind it, because now Popeyes have been growing, and, we didn't bring something very simple, but I think a lot of operators that listen to your show will recognize that we didn't bring in lettuce and tomato, which we had done, 19 times prior. And what that means is, we didn't have lettuce and tomato in the restaurants before, so we weren't bringing it in just for that product. The lettuce and tomato that we weren't bringing in wasn't going bad. Therefore, the product quality was based on the chicken patty and the preparation and the pickles, right? And these pickles are incredible. So we kept it simple. We knew we had a winner, and then there was one tweet that started it all. That my friend and partner Bruno, who's out there in the world today, is responsible for, and his team, and that's what started it. And I think when you have a better product at a comparable price with no one had ever really come at Chick-fil-A from a quality perspective. And I think that's what set it off where, wait, is this thing actually better than Chick-fil-A? Nobody's better than Chick-fil-A. And that conversation, people took sides. And you've made it when people are making memes of Popeyes versus Chick-fil-A. And now
That's
there's
right.
a bunch of rap songs all over Spotify about it. So, we knew we had a winner, but, insane level of focus on quality and execution and partnership with the franchisees. Um, you
Yeah.
know,
And I think, it's, how do I put this? What you're saying is not different than what I would hear other people say. I think the difference is that it was done. If that makes, like and what you said actually became truth. Like I've heard everyone, what makes this different? Oh, better
mm,
quality. It's gonna be great service. I'm like, congratulations, you're in the restaurant industry. Like, so what's really gonna make this different? Because everybody thinks their quality is great, but I think, like you said, when you have a rock star supply chain team that can actually source that product, you have an operations team that just ace training and not just training of like do this, but understanding the bigger picture. So when they're
yeah.
talking to people, they understand the bigger picture and they actually feel part of something. That's amazing. And for a challenger brand to not only challenge but overcome, the leader is pretty intense. And then you see the stragglers behind. You have people that try to catch up. I mean, McDonald's tried to launch a chicken sandwich. You haven't heard much about it. Zaxby's way late to the program. Church is way late to the program. And at this time, it's like, well, you guys are too late. So why bother at that point, I guess. But what's amazing about the Popeye sandwich, and I'll let you talk because this is not about me talking. The consistency is very notable in that quality. So, case in point, I ate that sandwich for the first time on the highway driving from Atlanta to New Orleans, and it was in a podunk town. And it was, you know what I mean? It was a highway town. I just happened to go there because McDonald's was closed. Boom, I ate it. It's amazing. A month later, by this time, I'm a year late to the game, right? So a month later, I'm in I waiting for my wife to pick me up at the airport. I'm hungry. I don't want to wait, and boom, there's a Popeyes in the airport. So I grab it there, thinking, okay, it's gonna have the same ingredients, but come on, it's not gonna be this. It was the same. It was so fantastic, and I think that's the magic. Is like the quality and the consistency, like you said.
Yeah. And I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy in that when you have a big launch and you're moving volume and the product is hot and the product is fresh, it's easier to be able to deliver the consistency, that you're talking about. And by the way, some of the best Popeyes in the world are between Atlanta and New Orleans. So I think you nailed it there. But I think the other thing you mentioned, other folks late to the party. I don't think it's about being late to the party. You named Zaxby's and others. Those guys are all amazing. I think the thing is, Popeye spent, 2, 3, 4 years specifically developing this product. And after the Popeyes launch, when everyone saw how successful the launch was, everyone said, I need a new one on the menu in 3 months. And if that's your approach to product development, you're not going to deliver, what you need. It might take 3 years, and you have
Yeah,
to have a team that has the guts to stand up and say, hey, you know, we taste tested versus Chick-fil-A, who's best in class, or Popeyes, who's best in class, and we're underperforming. We need to rework. And you need to succumb to that pressure of, I need something on the menu now, but I need another year to do it. And I think that internal struggle where product quality wins that argument, that discussion, that's what you need. And I think that like most folks would probably say the same thing as you mentioned. But I would argue, show me the numbers from your taste tests. Show me the numbers of your in-market tests when you're in restaurants and you do tests versus Chick-fil-A. If you're beating, I'll use Chick-fil-A as an example. If you're beating them, then you're good. But I think a lot of folks will succumb to the pressure, know that they're underperforming, use their old product as a benchmark, and say, "Hey, I've improved significantly," but customers are only comparing you versus best in class. And so I think it's that insane focus on quality that I think a lot of folks will skip. And like I can understand, but Popeyes is the chicken guy, and so we weren't willing to compromise.
Yeah, and that really is the difference, is the dedication and having the guts to, I think, at any time walk away and say, look, this just isn't panning out. Having the guts to persevere and say, while this particular variation was good, it's not good enough, and like pushing
Yeah.
ahead more. And I think that lesson actually has translated to Simply Salad prior to you joining, but then I think obviously after you joining, it's even now more a part of the culture. Simply Salad. Before we hop in, I mean, this is a complete violent shift because we're talking about chicken
Mhm.
sandwiches. Now we're going to
Yeah.
salads, and I think when it comes to healthy food, especially in America, if you ask people, they will rah rah healthy food all day long. And then when you get it out there, they buy the hamburger. It's
That's right.
almost every single time. And so chicken sandwiches, I think people kind of forgot that they were actually a staple for a lot of people. And so it was obvious it was time for that to be re-upped, right? But salads have maintained, I think, some spikes in growth. But Simply Salad has found something I think intriguing and unique, and it's where it went, where these locations happen to be. And I don't think it was part of the strategy, but it's certainly become part now because you realize who your biggest fans really are, and they're not,
Mhm.
the rich suburbs of a metro where there's a ton of money. Instead, you have found traction in places like Compton, Los Angeles, and places that people would mark as underserved, where it's like a health food desert. So, what has the reception been like, and how remarkable was that for you when you excavated that insight?
Yeah, I mean, the reception has been like, I want to say like overwhelming, surprising, but honestly fulfilling. And part of why I shifted from chicken sandwiches to salads, I had a couple little kids. I was thinking about legacy. I was thinking about, making a better impact on the world and, bringing healthy food to every community. Like there's some others out there doing, amazingly well now. I was passionate about it. And so, the reception where, in your point of, folks go for the hamburger, I think the reality is that like a lot of folks are focused on, just getting salads out the door instead of building a salad that meets the same need as a Big Mac. And, that craving, that hunger, that efficiency with my time, the convenience. And I think that is what enabled us to, build a successful business and, has excited us, to try to double our business this year and double again next year, is because, folks are realizing that, hey, a salad I can have it at 12:30 and I can make it until dinner and not be hungry and not cheat on a cookie, or a bag of chips or, caramel popcorn or whatever. And so I think like that reception from the communities, is inspiring, honestly, to us. Like we are inspired to build our business. We are inspired to listen to our customers and ask them for feedback and ask for menu ideas. The reception, I would have never thought that, communities, we have a store in Koreatown, we have a store in LAX, where it's not the mecca for health food. And we have a million little Picassos out there designing their own salads, putting things together that we never thought of. It makes them feel good about themselves. It's a healthy option, and they're in and out the door quick.
Hmm.
And I think when folks feel like that, and then we pay it back to them and ask them for feedback and listen to them when they give us feedback, that's when, for example, the new stores that we're opening, we listened to customers. We said, hey, where should we open? And he said, hey, I drive 25 minutes to go get a salad here 3 times a week. Can you open one down here? You think we'd be successful down there? Yeah. And then here we are, openings. We're listening to them. So the reception, Joseph, to your question, and it has been amazing. But I think it's not because of anything other than like we're trying to meet the same need as what the burger QSR players are offering, and that's
Yeah.
it.
So it's making salads convenient and accessible, and it sounds like the approach is really inclusive. And maybe that's one of the elements of the secret sauce is that people feel heard. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think, I mean, inclusive, yes, but inclusive from the standpoint that, like, our teams are very diverse, and you know we hire from the communities in which we serve. So when you walk in a store, the folks talk like you, act like you. The music is the same music that you listen to, right? It feels comfortable. It feels home. And even the way that we take orders, where there's not some big fancy menu board up, in a very sterile type feeling. There's someone standing, you know 2 feet away with you during COVID with the mask on. Um, you know, there to act like your Sherpa for salads, right?
Hmm.
And so it's someone right there allowing you to feel comfortable. Hey, what is this quinoa stuff? And you don't feel like you're asking the question in front of 15 people if it's your first time ordering a salad. And so I think that even little things like that order process, make it work for us. And I think we like our secret, if there's a secret, if you will, it's not a secret, and I'll share it, is we don't focus on health. You know,
Hmm.
uh, everybody knows that salads are healthy. We don't focus on that. We focus on the great taste. We focus on the quality of the ingredients. We focus on the service. We focus on the experience. We focus on clean restrooms. All these kinds of things, the same reason that the best QSRs in the world grew to be the best QSRs in the world, we focus on those things. And we talk about product quality. We talk about taste. Taste is king. And we focus on that. People know that salads are healthy. And when that salad can deliver the same against the same craving as a Big Mac and fries, that's when we're winning.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're working towards.
And I think the quality approach and focusing so heavily on the produce and all of that, it does come through in the flavor. And I think more and more people are waking up to this. That this you can get things at scale, like produce and everything, but there's something that is lost in that, the flavor. And you and Cameron and Bruce did have a chuckle when I ate my salad without dressing. But one of the reasons for that is, hey, if it's made with good ingredients, you actually don't need a dressing. Like those ingredients pop with flavor. It creates a really magical mix. Now, of course, the dressings at Simply Salad are divine. They're wonderful. But that's one of the things I wanted to taste is I heard that it was quality, but people love to abuse that word. And when I had that, I was like, this is actually pretty amazing. I don't really need the dressing. I added the dressing for extra flavor at times. That's something notable, and you see it in eggs too. I don't know if you're a happy egg fan, but when you have a happy egg next to even an Eggland's Best, the other
Mhm.
eggs just look anemic, and then they taste anemic because it's like a very flat flavor. And I think you get the same thing with Simply Salad. So how hard has it been to secure that level of quality of product at scale, knowing that your scale is still relatively small?
Yeah, I think insanely difficult. And I don't say that for any reason other than it's really hard.
Yeah.
Our produce, for example, the stuff that we're serving in our restaurants today, was in the ground 3 days ago. Comes straight from the farm, packed in a truck into our central facility the same night, delivered to the stores. And so it's fresher than at Whole Foods. I love Whole Foods, but we're easily 4 or 5 days, 6 days fresher than the Whole Foods in California. And that's hard work. We have our own logistics team. We have our own trucks. We have supply chain team. We're doing maintenance on diesel trucks all the time. And I think a lot of folks want to, rely on and there are great companies out there that do food distribution, your Cisco's of the world, and they serve a purpose. But I
Mhm.
think we want that extra week of freshness in the produce, just as an example, because folks can taste it. Folks can taste it when you bring like a Beverly Hills quality product and taste to markets that aren't used to it. People say, "Wow, this is really good. This doesn't taste like the sad salads that I've had before."
Mhm.
And so it's little things like that. We do the same with our dressings where we make everything by hand. We could buy decently good pre-made Caesar, but we don't want to do that, right? We don't have preservatives. We make everything fresh. The same with the proteins. You know, we we marinate them all overnight. We throw them on the grill, we finish them in the oven, we cube them up, and then that same evening we're taking them to the source. So it's fresh, it's done by hand, it's marinated overnight, and you can taste it. And I think it's all these little things that make a big difference in terms of our business. But that your question was, how hard is it? It's hard. You know,
Yeah.
I just, I spend a lot of my time outside of the restaurants. And for a restaurant person to be spending, call it half their time on supply chain, sourcing, culinary, innovation, prep, diesel truck mechanics, maintenance, it's a lot of time it takes away from the stuff in the restaurant. But, if you have good stuff going into your restaurants, your four walls, it makes it that much easier to be able to deliver a high quality product coming out. And I think
Yeah.
that's maybe what makes us a little bit different.
It sounds like it's a really big benefit of being all corporate owned stores as well. But you do have a lot of experience with franchisees at a large scale where you have franchise groups that do command a lot of power within the
Right.
organization, the ecosystem. Um, how scalable do you think having this fleet of trucks, like this methodology, is? I mean, obviously, you think it's scalable to a certain point, or else you wouldn't have gotten
Mhm.
involved. But is the plan to stay corporate, or do you see a path where this could still be effective for a franchise system?
Yeah, I think, your question, how scalable is it? I mean, we're in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles County alone has 10 million people. That's bigger than most countries in the earth. So, I want to attack that first. Could we have 100 restaurants in LA County? Maybe. And I think that we are focused on building density, and density brings on all these benefits in terms of, the ability to then invest in marketing, efficiency from a distribution standpoint. The number one reason why people know our brand and our stores is because they see them driving by high traffic roads. The more stores we have, the stores themselves serve as marketing. So, look, I think it's this. We're going for density, and we're not trying to, go to Chicago. I spent some years there, and I love Chicago, but we're not thinking about that. We're trying to build density. And look, maybe it's a little more difficult, but it's still just as scalable. I mean, Chipotle, who I very much admire, they've got 2,500 plus stores, almost all corporate, right? And so I think we're trying to build something similar. Same, look at In and Out in Southern California, right? Folks know them, and it's a very similar approach. So yeah, I think it's scalable. The franchise business is an amazing one, and there are certain brands out there that are just killing the game right now. Your Crumble Cookies of the world. Um, you know, I think our business model, we're still figuring out who we want to be when we grow up, and so we're not polished enough yet to even entertain franchising. At some point, we might want to do that, but I think for the time being, we're still trying to dial in and perfect everything that we're working on. And look, there's yeah, several 100,000 chain restaurants in America. How many chain restaurants are healthy eating or salad? It's maybe a couple thousand, and it needs to be 100,000. So there's a massive opportunity. So there's enough opportunity for 15 or 20 major players to come in and share this market. And so we're just trying to do our part in our backyard. Ultimately, we want to grow a lot, significantly, but we're just trying to nail execution first, and then start running even faster.
Yeah, I think the density question or statement, I think, is really important takeaway there too. A lot of brands, as they're growing, they don't grow with density in mind. It's more establish a few flags in this city and then look to another city, for instance. So I have a friend here that has an opportunity in Charlotte, and I'm like, right, that sounds cool, and it definitely feels good on the ego that somebody wants you to come to Charlotte. But have you thought about how you're going to service that market? How are you going to market in that market? How are you going to thrive there? Because if you just have one location, but you have three in Atlanta, Atlanta wins. You got to focus on Atlanta. That's your base. And I think so many multi units grow out of their area way too quickly, and they actually bootstrap themselves unnecessarily. Not in a good way. They handcuff themselves, I should say.
Yeah.
So it's great to think that way. And you mentioned how it fuels marketing as well. So I do want to kind of hop back to the beginning for a minute. The budgets behind launching a product are not small. And I think I've seen some of that misconception or the desire to have a big brand launch without a big brand budget. But I do think you can get um, more guerrilla with it. Like you said, that tweet or that social post about the sandwich is really what sparked it.
Mm.
And people are looking for that magic bullet, but I think there's a lot of work that went into that. I think you mentioned Bruno led that charge. From your perspective, are there some rules of thumb or just some guidances on what kind of budgets or how much weight you should put behind launching a new product or an LTO?
This is Joseph. This is the $1 billion question.
So it's a
It's
billion dollars. Okay, great.
yeah, yeah. Look, and think of national brands, right? Any dollar that you're taking to launch something that's unproven is taking away from supporting what's proven. So, you know, oftentimes folks will measure, hey, this new product is selling, 50 a day per restaurant. This is above our threshold. Great. But if you have less ancillary purchases with each one of those 50 than what you had with the other 50 tickets or 50 items that you were selling before, it might be value destructive. And so you're taking away from your moneymaker to invest in something unproven. Um, and so I think that, like, your question of what's the budget, I think it's a question of, like, how sure are you of the bet, right? Because if you're confident that your product tastes better, you can execute in restaurant, you have the supply chain to support, uh, you have the equipment to support, then it's worth it. And then you test it properly, and you test it under real conditions. You test it. So most folks don't realize, a year prior to that launch of the Popeyes chicken sandwich, we had those sandwiches in 3 restaurants in Houston, and we could measure what was happening. We could measure what happened when we turned on local TV and local digital social. So we could see what was going on in the business. So we knew that we had something, right?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
so then that kind of fed more, more confidence that, like, hey, we should make a major budget line item for this. And then the plans were, with social, right, to start, right, because you can be efficient. And then that, the infamous tweet that Twitter gave us award, I think the most liked corporate tweet in the history of Twitter, the y'all good tweet. Like, we didn't need to do anything after that. So we canceled all TV because we ran out of products in 10 days.
Yeah.
But I think your question, what's the budget? How sure are you? If you're sure, like, be brave, go all in,
Yeah.
and support it. And, for some folks, like, you might be, it's a risk, but, like, what's the risk that you don't support it? I mean, you're basically agreeing to fail before you even start. And so what I would say is, like, if you're confident in your product and you're realistic with testing, not in a lab, but in real restaurants down the street run by franchisees in real operating conditions, and you're outperforming, then invest behind it. And you might be surprised what you find, with those conditions. So, I can't give a specific dollar amount. Depends on the launch, how big of a category it is. But I think that, like, it scales up relative to, think about it in terms of percentage of your budget. If you think that product X is going to be a killer, and you invest 30% of your budget behind your main product, should you be investing at least 10 to 15% of your budget in this product launch? Probably.
Yeah, it's worth the bet. So the confidence really does come with the purse, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
you can talk the big game about how wonderful the product is, how great it's going to be, but then if you put an anemic budget behind it, it's like, well, is that really going to move the needle? And I think we have those conversations a lot with folks.
Yeah, it's like
What do you
investing.
really think?
Yeah, it's like investing, right? The total return of your portfolio is going to be based on, the biggest bets that you make and how they perform, and
That's right.
it's no different here.
So this might be the toughest question of the entire interview. If you could have one, if you had one last meal on Earth, on this plane of existence, what would you eat? Where would you eat it, and why?
I would have. All right, so I am a sucker for Domino's thin crust pizza. Um, I love it. And that's what I would have. I would have that, with my wife. I mean, we met in business school. We bonded over late night Domino's pizza a bunch of times. So it's very sentimental. It satiates my hunger. It's thin. It's not too heavy. So I would have it probably in Chicago, sitting outside somewhere, not during the winter. And, just enjoy it with with a beer or something.
I love it. So I didn't
It's not
intend for this
fancy,
to
but
get.
yeah.
That's why the question is what it is. It's like why, why is that though? And I think that's a great story. I
Yeah, it
didn't
means
mean to
something.
put you into a position where you would become a controversial figure, but here we go. Pineapple on pizza or no?
100%. I'm
100%
team.
yes.
I'm 100% yes. I'm team
I love it.
pineapple. I catch a lot of flack. I don't know what side you're on, but
I'm
I
team
catch a lot of
pineapple.
flack. Yeah,
Yeah,
it belongs on pizza, right? It brings the nice texture, and I love the moisture and the flavor of it, so it works well.
that's
So
right.
to all the haters out there, you guys got it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, I encourage it. Don't eat pineapple on pizza. It's more for me. I don't have to worry about you at the party eating my pizza. So that's awesome. Well, Daniel, how can people find Simply Salad? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, so simplysalad.com is our website. At Simply Salad Instagram is the handle. You can follow a lot of what we're doing. I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can find me. But look, we're heads down. I'm heads down. I'm not generally trying to do podcasts or anything. But Joseph, I know you and like you, want to support you. But yeah, reach out. Any of those channels. I'm behind all of them with my partners, and more importantly, come visit one of our locations in Los Angeles. Come try our product, come see what we're doing, and reach out. And I'd love to talk about it. I think like Pat Brown from Impossible Foods. Like he wants more people in the plant-based food category, to compete with them, to make them better, and it'll help achieve their mission of eradicating the animal proteins. We want more competition as well. And, we want more players to help us, make it easier to eat healthy. And we can't capture it all. So come visit, share your feedback, and let's talk.
I love it. Well, thanks so much for taking the time out. I really do appreciate it. There's a lot of great insights that I think people are going to click really eat up.
If you love what we served up, please follow us at Vigor Branding on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Medium. Forktales is produced by the team at Vigor. Audio and video post-productions provided by Zencaster. Music performed by Jet Trash and licensed through musicbed.com. Joseph handles his own hair, makeup, and stunts. Copyright 2003 to 2021, Vigor Graphic Design LLC, all rights reserved.